Welcome to Crossroads. This is a collaboration between Mira Business FM and Middlesex University Dubai. I'm Deema Maghalseh, and I'm here with my co-host, Dr. David Tully. Hello, David.
Hello, Deema. Thank you for having me.
I feel like I'm introducing a guest.
I feel that way too.
Usually we start the show with interesting news from industry, whether trends or like some thoughts. Did anything stand out to you this week?
I wish we'd done some forethought and some foreplanning because basically I'm more excited about getting right to our guest because it's related to the news, but it's not entertainment news. But we're talking about the entertainment industry, so it is related.
Yeah, and you know...
How's that for a convoluted intro?
No, amazing, because when we even discussed the show today, we were like, how are we going to fit all this in 1 hour? Because it's such a fascinating story. It has so much to talk about and discuss. So I'm just going to go straight to
I think we should bypass, because let's face it, all anybody's talking about is sea dance. And how many times can you say, AI is coming, AI is coming?
Yeah, correct. But you know what? Like today's story even, and the book we're going to discuss today with our guest, is it evidence, or it shows you that many things can't be replaced by AI.
Amen.
The realness and the stories and the emotions that we get, especially when it comes from a personal space, you can't replace that by anything. So I'm going straight to introduce Donya Saberi, author, social scientist, lecturer, who has recently published her memoir, The Quiet Revolution. And it tells the story of one Iranian woman navigating heartbreak, family pain, and social pressure in Dubai, while discovering courage, resilience, and inner strength. But for me, the story has much more depth and meaning than those classified descriptions of resilience, pain, all these things. Or self-help. It's much more deep and layered as well. Welcome to the show, Donya.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're thrilled to have you here. It's an honor. This is amazing.
Yeah.
The honor is mine. Thank you.
And it is heavy stuff. But you were very, shall I say, charmingly self-effacing when you said, I said, what kind of sort of genre do you sell this at? You said misery memoir.
Yes. Yes. I think that's the best way of describing it. Well, I thought I had a sad story. But, people like to think that their life is a bit special. And then when my editor, the publisher and I put it down as memoir. And my editor came back with her first edit comments, and it's like, no, it's a misery memoir. It's not just a memoir. And I had not picked the name yet. And then she gave me a list of top 10 misery memoirs. She's like, to get inspired for the name. And 5 of those 10 books are my favorite books.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, oh, okay, I see the trend.
What were some of those? Can you remember?
Boy Called It.
Oh, right.
On top of that list.
Right.
It's definitely, I wouldn't say it's as miserable as that. But in the top 10, it was there was none from the Middle East. And I think
that's an interesting phenomenon. None from the Middle East. But these are 5 of your favorite books, and they were all classified as misery memoirs. Now, Boy Called It, I remember well from when I was a tow-headed tyke working in bookstores. And by the way, I worked at bookstores all over the U.S., like from Boston to San Francisco, and in every single one, the best-selling genre, hands down, is self-help.
Yes.
And I think misery memoir, you could say, fits within that broad label of self-help, correct? Yeah. So Boy Called It was a big bestseller. That's why I remember selling many, many copies of that, but that was a long time ago. So can you think, it's a durable and long-standing genre as a popular genre.
It is, it definitely
It's a weird way to say it's popular. But it strikes a chord with a lot of people.
It really does. And especially within, let's say, Middle Eastern stories, I can tell you that when I was approaching publishers, they were comfortable with the content, but they were not comfortable with categorizing it as a memoir. They wanted me to turn it into a fictional book. And I think maybe it's topics that are quite sensitive, not because it's censored or anything, but it's it's a very uncomfortable truth within our society and culture, and people have a problem with that.
Was that in specific country or just the region in
Oh,
general?
in the UAE.
In the UAE.
In the UAE, and I wanted the book to be published in the UAE. I am a Dubai kid. I always say I'm Iranian Dubai kid because we have a commonality within kids who've grown up in Dubai in the 80s and 90s. We know all the same places. So irrespective of where we're born or where our families are from, there's something about a Dubai kid. We just get each other. So I wanted the story to be out of the UAE. I really wanted it to be published by
Actually,
a
it's
UAE
a
author.
personal story to you,
Yes.
right? So it has to be real. We have a guest here, or she was sorry, I got distracted because someone
The
was
interesting
literally
aspect of recording in a fishbowl is that
No,
people
someone was
will
literally
want to
I
poke
could
at
see it
the
as well, like just like a shadow just here in the back.
just bumped into my face, literally watching through the glass while we were talking about misery.
She's actually looking for where they sell the talk show host
Exactly.
food that she's going to drop in.
This is a sign how interested people are in misery. We didn't start talking yet.
She really wanted to hear about this book.
Sorry, Donya. Going back to your story. So, yeah, because the story is so real, you wanted to even have the UAE aspect in it, or
Yes.
Dubai aspect specifically, to keep that. Can you take us through the story? And since it's a personal story to you, how did you grow up with it? How did you decide as well to make a book about it? But what is it mainly about?
Okay, so let's say I've experienced, unfortunately or fortunately, most of the miserable milestones a person can experience before 30. And it was almost like comedic in a way where, you know, like every scenario in your life where it's like, oh, what's the worst that can happen? And that would happen. And I started telling my friends, I'm like, guys, this is a joke. And this, when I was in my mid-20s, I started telling my friends, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to call it This Is a Joke. Because it can't be this bad every time. But I do have a dark sense of humor. I guess a lot of people with unfortunate stories do have quite a dark sense of humor. So I was like, we're going to call it This Is a Joke. And as time passed by, so I used to teach social sciences. I worked with a lot of students who were social science students, and it almost turned every class into a group therapy session.
What is it?
Family abuse.
Oh.
So not the physical kind, which is spoken about quite a lot, but mental and emotional abuse. It's almost not recognized as it's usually looked at as, oh, that's our culture, that's the norm. So students would bond over it, I could bond over it with them, and it would turn into this group session of talking about your traumatized experiences. And then what was unfortunate was they were taking these courses and degrees because their parents didn't believe in therapy. But they were willing to pay for a degree, so the kids would pick psychology, so that hopefully they could fix themselves almost.
Interesting. Now, you said it was so widespread across what sort of group? People...
So just different backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, but the majority were from Asia. So whether it was South Asia, Middle East, Southeast Asia. So it was a common theme. So even
of this sort of emotional abuse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Emotional or mental abuse. Because it's a lot more difficult to identify it, especially if you don't talk about it. Mm-hmm. So I decided to write it eventually when things started getting better. I had to, by the time I was 30 plus, I was like, okay, I'm going to start writing this book because my story is not unique. I would love to say it's unique so you can go out and buy it, but...
Well, you don't give away all the story, but it strikes a universal chord.
There's definitely a universal core of common themes that are experienced with a lot of young people, but also a lot of grown-ups who just repeat the cycle of the parents. So I really wanted to write that story.
And it largely takes place in the UAE.
Yeah, completely.
Oh,
in
completely.
The UAE, yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to give away any of the twist ending or anything. What is the Quiet Revolution? What are you referring to? Or do you not want to go into that in a soundbite manner?
Okay, so I grew up with Bollywood movies. I'm Iranian, but every Dubai kid grew up with Channel 33. It was the only English-speaking channel in the UAE. And on Thursdays at 10 p.m. was a Bollywood movie. As a result of that, I grew up watching a lot of Shah Rukh Khan movies, which is great. You start believing in this like guy who's going to come and save you from the trauma. And you're going to live happily ever after. Or if we look at Disney movies, big fan of Disney. I know. But, I love the princess stories and all of it.
Well, they're popular for a reason.
Yeah.
They tick a box for people.
Yeah, you want that. And I still understand the stories behind it and the critique behind it. But Cinderella and Aladdin are still...
It seems it was more of escapism way for you.
It was, but also you identify. So you identify the miserable part, let's say, but there's a happy ending at the bit where you're going to get saved. So that saving can be from either a person coming and saving you, or there's like some sort of a revolution. And with that, giving it away, it's...
No, we don't want you to give it away, but
Okay.
I was actually going to pick up on what you were saying, that it's very easy to knock Disney films, but I mean, Walt himself, as a producer, had a genius for combining just the right elements of these old world fairy tales, which were designed for coping with trauma. Stories like Little Red Riding Hood and Snow White are all about coping with trauma, and he combined them with this very American self-reliance thing too. So it appeals on a lot of levels and to a lot of traditions, and it doesn't pander so much and offer easy, happy endings. It gives people ways of finding them for themselves.
Exactly.
And I guess that's kind of what your book was about.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite movie until now is Mary Poppins.
Yeah. Oh, good choice. Excellent film. There's not many better films than that out there in any form. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was mainly interested to know the kind of experiences you went through, if you'd like to share with us, that led to writing this book.
Yeah, so it was very difficult. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was extremely difficult. I had started writing it from the time I was probably 27, after one of the instances that happened in the book, but I couldn't. I simply could not do it. I couldn't emotionally get to it. I could not function as a single mom at that time, go to work, and then write this, sad journey. And I was like, no, I need to write it at a good time. So what I started doing instead was recording rants. So every time like something would remind me of, let's say, an incident, I would start recording it on my phone and just like talking to myself. And then when I was ready to sit down and write it, I transcribed my notes.
Oh, so that was basically your manuscript started there.
Yeah.
That's great.
Transcribed my notes, went over it. Because I am an academic writer, it was extremely difficult for me to bring in the emotions of it, even though the whole thing was about how emotionally dark it was and emotional abuse. But so I had to learn how to write creatively to bring people into my world without it being very academic.
That's fascinating, because I think that there's an automatic assumption that if you're feeling emotional and you write about that it'll translate onto the page and capture an audience. And you discovered that that's not always the case.
That's not the case,
That there's an art to it.
Exactly, 100%. So even with my first draft, it was fascinating for me that my editor could pick up exactly what I was feeling. And she would make notes like, this is just a rant. And she was right, because it was just a transcript I put in without editing, like some of the chapters. So I learned how to go about bringing people into what I was feeling as opposed to just dictating what it was. But I did have to take time off work. My husband was like, you need to get this book out of you. You need to close this chapter, take off work, and focus on writing this book. So I have to give him credit for that. So I sat and I wrote it. It was amazing.
How long did that? Sorry, I'm
No,
interrupting again.
carry on.
Just a very quick question. Sure. How long did that process take? How long did you take off from work and sat and focused and said, okay, I've got to write this book?
So I finished it in about 4 months, the first draft.
Yeah.
But the whole process took a year.
But the first draft, I often think, is the most important, right? You spew it all out, and then there's the the slow
Coming back.
fine-tune.
Yeah, it took because the story was there. I had my rants.
Yeah.
I remembered it, and
Rants are a good place to start writing
It
from,
is.
though. It comes from the heart, that's for sure. Sorry, Deema, I
No,
interrupted
it's
you.
okay. When I was like reading more about like your book or getting to know the story, the first thing came to my mind was like it's so hard and difficult when you want to remember or even verbalize certain traumas that you went through. And it's so courageous to actually decide to share it with the world.
Yeah.
Right. So, and you still, even now while talking about it, you're still emotionally affected. Like I can see that.
Yeah, I am emotionally affected, but I think it's important to talk about it because I wrote it because I had nothing to lose. Again, just trying so hard not to give anything away. But within a culture where, I mean, I don't know if you're listeners, but like within Middle Eastern, just Iranian culture, your image, your family image supersedes your personal goals and achievements. So to not care about that because you have nothing to lose, I thought, great, I'll take one for the team, for the girls. So now I have people reaching out to me to write their story. So they don't want to share their names, but I'll write it on their behalf.
Interesting.
And this is just
This has happened since the publication of
Yes.
the book.
You know, what is the importance of actually sharing such personal stories? Like, I know for filmmakers as well, especially celebrities or others who are keen about writing their own stories, or even directors, writers, they take so long writing other stories until they get the courage to write their own story, especially if it has so much, let's say, misery in it, right? But there's always this urge to share with the public.
Yeah.
Where's this urge coming from? What is the need to share?
So seeing a lot of people I grew up with repeating the same mistakes as, let's say, our families did by choice was very difficult for me. So, for example, seeing friends around me who were repeating the same mistakes as, let's say, our mothers who were not highly educated or they did not have rights, things like that. So watching successful women who are highly educated, really high up in their career, repeating family dynamics when they don't have to because the law here protects us, then, so I wanted to talk about it and, highlight that.
Can you give us an example of what sort of family dynamics would be repeated that the law would?
Okay, so I'll share a little bit of part of the...
We don't want to be pushy. We know we don't want to give the book away, but
Or do
like,
No, I can share
no,
like
we
from
want to
the
give
first couple
enough so
chapters.
we understand the emotion behind
Yeah,
it as
sure.
well, so we can connect. Listeners can also connect with what we are talking about, so we can share more discussions about it.
So it's part of the first couple of chapters. So I get married at 18. It was a month after my 18th birthday, I get married. I walk into Dubai court, the family court section, and my father was all about not writing down any form of agreement prior. So no meher, let's not discuss any meher. I'm not selling my daughter. This is just about the union of
Just
marriage.
to explain for people who are not familiar with maher, is basically like a dowry where the husband should provide as a gift for the bride when they're getting married.
Yeah.
So it's like a right for her to get this, but your father didn't want it.
Yeah, he was like, I'm not selling my daughter,
Okay.
so there doesn't need to be a price to it. And so the lady sitting and typing in the agreement before we go see the judge looks at me and she goes like, okay, so since they're busy, let me talk to you. And I was in love because this was my boyfriend, high school boyfriend. I wasn't being forced into this marriage. She's like, so let me write down you're allowed to drive. And I was like, what? Why do I need to write that? Obviously, I'll be allowed to drive. She's like, yeah, do you want to drive? I was like, yeah. She's like, okay, I'm going to write this in. Do you want to work? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to write. And I was like, but why are you writing this? She's like, well, you'll be surprised the number of women who can't drive because their husband told them they can't drive after this, after they signed the contract. She's like, I can see your dad's not really concerned about you. But I didn't care. That's why I was getting married anyways at 18.
It seems that since also your father didn't want that dowry for the marriage, that you're also still young. So there might be other things that you are not aware of. So she
Exactly.
reminded you of other rights that you have.
I mean, my son's turning 18 this year. And the idea of him getting married is just ridiculous. He's a very bright, intelligent kid. But marriage, no way. So I can see where she was coming from. Someone who's and that was her role. Her role was typing in marriage contracts and divorce contracts. So she was just balancing it out because she felt that no one was looking out for me. Now, fast forward, that's 18 years ago. But I still see women repeat similar mistakes, such as not having that idea of not being allowed to work, for example. Even though it's their rights, they can write that. But because they, let's say, forget to write that because they do not assume that could happen to them in 2025, 2026, they don't write it. They get into marriages, and then they're stuck. But they wouldn't leave the marriage because what's worse than a single mom or a divorced person in the Middle East? It's still, we've evolved quite a lot as a society in a lot of aspects, you know, having women in boardrooms and things like that. So all the nice checklists of getting, you know, high up in rankings, but not within families. Like within family dynamics, we're still very much, I wouldn't say even conservative, but very tribal.
And so your book, you think, is a sort of, what's the word we could use? You were saying earlier you wanted to show people that there's solutions.
There is solutions, yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Oh yeah, my book is not about like, oh, go out and get a divorce and go out and, you know, you can, it's not like that, but it's more about if something horrible is happening and you believe that something horrible is happening, despite the culture, you have the law to protect you. You have, you find your, sounds very cheesy, but find your tribe.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so you are, in the most profound sense of the word, truly a self-help book. I mean, you are a self-help book should be showing people how to help themselves, and very few of them do it. And you are doing it, and so you said, and clearly you're having a response to that as well.
Yes.
You said people are reaching out to you.
It has been very positive. It's been extremely positive. I'm trying to learn how to respond to people when they're so kind, when they share so much about how they can either relate to it or they've seen their mother in it. It's quite overwhelming. It's almost, I knew that it would resonate because of my students, because they're younger, and the story starts off the age of my students. But having older women come out and talk about it has been beautiful.
You know, I see the main issue of them not taking action, or like people, whether women or kids in general, they're not taking action because they don't even realize that this is not okay to happen.
Exactly.
They think it's the norm, and especially when abuse comes from your own family, they are your role model.
Yeah.
It takes you a long time to realize that this is not the role model. It's actually the opposite. So in your experience as well, when did you start realizing that actually, no, this is not okay to happen to me, and I'm gonna stand for myself and just do justice?
Yeah, my background is social sciences, so I was one of those students that was trying to figure out what's wrong with my family.
Similar to your students.
Similar to my students.
Yeah. Did you realize that before or after? Maybe after you saw your students and why they got into social science, you realized that about yourself?
Well, I was fascinated. When I found out social science is a degree that you can take, because I came from very humble background, so I did not know that such a degree exists. And I was like, oh, what's that? It's like trying to understand the society and dynamics. I was like, I would love to know what's wrong with my family.
But I mean, it's right there. Unlike many of your students, it seems, you went in knowing exactly what you were doing.
Yes.
So, I mean, if you were trying to look at society from a detached unemotional, scientific
Yes,
perspective.
yes.
And in a way, you said you were trying to do the same thing at first in trying to write your book.
100%.
And to master the craft of writing, you had to also detach from the emotions.
Yes.
To realize how to create the emotions
Yeah.
for the reader too. But you went in knowing full well this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I want to find a solution to this problem of my family.
But you often find that your students are not quite as self-aware when they first get in. Is that correct?
To be honest, a lot of them are.
Okay.
A lot of them are, but they're not sure how to get the help. They don't know who to look at. They don't know who to trust. So trust is a big part of it. They do not know who to trust if they're trying to find help. So finding someone that they can talk to is quite helpful. And, I would introduce them to counselors or things like that. So that is a struggle that they had quite a lot. So even if they were aware that something is wrong, it's like, okay, what do I do with this? What do I do with this acknowledgement of something is wrong?
And that's why a book like yours is so invaluable, because you're telling the story. And stories, I argue again and again, are the most effective tool for teaching, because until now, there really isn't a set science. And there probably never will be. There are attempts to create scientific, understandings.
It's beautiful that it's coming from a personal story as well. Usually, self-help book come from experts or studies. Well, this one has more of a personal approach. It's like I'm coming, I'm coming from that experience, and this is how I give you this advice.
Yeah,
as
this
well.
is what I did.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you can take something out of it.
So just going back a bit to my question earlier. No. We diverted because there's so much to talk about. So at which age or like when did you start realizing that this is actually
not fine? So I have been living with quite a few chronic physical conditions from a very young age. And I think it was about 28. I went in with this chronic pain that I would always have in my bones. And the head of the hospital for rheumatology, he took on my case because nothing would get fixed. And over every test that you could think of that could possibly be done on bones and x-rays and all MRIs and everything, he concluded that there was nothing wrong with me. But he knew something was wrong because there was a lot of liquid inflammation, but there was no scientific reasoning behind it. It wasn't like blood related, nothing that they could fix with a pill. And once that was all done, he looked at me and he's like, "So, how's life?" And I was like, "Fine."
That's the usual answer for anyone when they're actually not fine at all.
Yeah. So, and then he goes like, we shouldn't get into it if you don't want to. But all I can tell you that something is going to happen. Like, he's like, I've been measuring your blood pressure for the few hours that you've been here. I knew he was doing that anyways because it's something that I had experienced quite a lot. He's like, but what I didn't tell you is that you were just a couple of numbers away from
seizure?
A stroke.
Stroke.
And I was 28. And he's like, so that's not normal. And he's like, sometimes it could be, heat, you were nervous. He's like, but you've been here for a few hours now. So your blood pressure should have reduced at some point, especially if every time we're finding that something is, like, you're clear. Your x-rays are clear, your MRI is clear. So something is wrong. And if we can't find it here, then it's in your mind. He's like, whatever it is that's happening in your life, you need to get rid of it. It is in the book, okay? Mm-hmm. So I will reveal what it is. And I did that. And a condition I had since I was a teenager up until 28 went away. Mm. But he wasn't the first one who had told me this. So I had been told I was close to a stroke a couple of times. So I knew it was not normal, right? But then also, how do you become that person that, stands up to generational behavior?
But because you took care of it went away.
It went away.
Okay. So
how much effort does it really take for that? Because usually if you're coming from certain background, you're already exhausted to a point that you're nearly having a stroke. But
Yeah.
then it takes also double effort in order to overcome that.
Yeah.
Where do you get that much strength from?
My faith is a big part of it. So I have a very strong faith. So I'm extremely spiritual as a person. And part of those comedic experiences throughout my life, I did get out fine every time, oddly saying. So no matter what the bad experience was, I still, outlived it.
You're here today.
I'm here. So
You wrote the book.
yeah, exactly. So it always worked out. So I had that, that faith that it is going to get better. And I got into my faith quite early on. I was 13. So that really helped me. But it's extremely difficult. And I don't even lie about it. It is an extremely difficult thing to do, to stand up, because it is exhausting. You lose a lot of people. So I've lost half of my family.
Why would you lose people?
Because I tell things that are uncomfortable. I pointed fingers. I was always that kid that was rebellious. But to be rebellious and then be a grown woman with kids and continue being rebellious is not really ladylike.
Wait, you say that but you're still going to do it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For a second, though. I'm not gonna do it.
100%.
Okay, good. Hold on. We are Crossroads at Mirror Business FM. As you know, you can find us at Mirror Business FM. If you're listening to us here, you can also find us on all the usual platforms: Apple, Amazon, Spotify. I don't have my notes with me today. What am I supposed to say?
I think
Other
that's
things.
it. You did it.
All those other cuckoo platforms that are out there.
I must say I'm impressed because you remember that without the notes.
Sometimes I wake up doing it in my sleep now.
Speaking, I like the switch. Did you see how I was laughing then suddenly serious? It's like, hey, I don't want to waste time.
That's the mark of a professional. Switch it on and off.
I was impressed with myself as well. Because you said that you were usually the rebellious kid. And you said that you were attracted to social science because you want to know what's going on in your family and also your students. I was looking for a note because I've read this some time ago and I kept it because it was really interesting and I think it justifies this very well. It says the emotionally absent father and the psychologically unstable mother often produce a kid with high emotional intelligence, not because he grew up in a safe environment, but because he had to understand the world on his own, to catch the signals before the words, to read faces to avoid pain, and to think before his time. His childhood wasn't embraced, so he had to switch on his senses early and mature inside to protect themselves.
Perfect. That's me.
Where'd you find that?
Honestly, randomly, things on Instagram
You
keeps
really did do your
showing
due
up.
diligence. Well, that wraps up that discussion.
That was it.
But because I relate this also to artists in general, because this is how they find their own space, they understand themselves better. Not necessarily all artists, but anyone with deep thinking, emotional intelligence. It mainly comes out through certain circumstances that actually push you to think.
100%. I remember one of my colleagues, while I was writing the book, she's like, Donya, I know it's about you, but if you hadn't gone through what you had gone through, you wouldn't be you. I'm like, I would have loved that.
I don't mind.
I'm like, no, that's not a reason. Like, I would be happy if I was not me. Like,
So how much of it, you grew up here, but you also said you're Iranian
I am
as well.
Iranian, yes.
And how much of it do you think, and I don't even know if we can talk about this, is part of your Iranian roots versus a growing up in here, or just growing up in Asia, or just growing up with your particular family? I mean, how much do you put it down to cultural roots?
I think culture is a huge part of it, mainly because, so can I say this? When I was writing the book, I was going to find publishers, and then I found the publisher that I'm with now. And they all their books are there's a hint of faith in it. And even though somehow I knew I wasn't wrong, because I would think I'm quite well versed in my religion, I was kind of nervous that, they would read my book and they wouldn't agree with the ending of this book. Like, oh, that's not what the religion says. So I was really, scared about it. And when they were very positive and they were like, these are exactly the type of books we're looking for. We want books that break the stereotype of where it's religion and culture. So most of it is culture. So it is the Iranian culture, 100%. I mean, I love being Iranian. We are so superficial. It's the best thing.
Explain, please.
So we are very proud of the fact that we're the capital of rhinoplasty. There is nothing
That's
shameful.
not something to be ashamed of.
There's nothing, 18-year-olds get gifted that for their birthdays.
Wow.
And, okay, this will explain Iranian culture in 2 seconds. My son had a very serious surgery at 1 year old by this extremely famous Iranian ENT specialist who also does nose jobs because, of course, and that's the best ones you go to because he knows what he's doing with the nose, right? No, I swear
should be the first
there is a
criteria.
Oh no, because some people just want the nose to look good. So anyway, so he's extremely popular. He's popular here and he's popular in Iran. Like there's queues, and when you enter his office, it's just women sitting in a row with just nose plaster, perfect noses. And my son had a very serious case. I mean, I laugh about it now because he was 1 and now he's 17, so we're good. But he was very close to not making it. I'm sorry for laughing. Okay, but it was a very serious condition, and at 1 he had to be. He was in the hospital. Antibiotics at 1 year old. Anyone who has a kid, they know that's horrible for them. But it had to be done because the alternative was invasive surgery. Anyways, fast forward, he does really well and he's completely fine. And I'm not joking. The surgeon turns his laptop towards me, and it's a slideshow of before and after noses.
At 1.
This is after he's done the all clear of my son's surgery.
He just can't stop himself.
Okay, and then and then I was like, "What's that?" He's like, "So now that we're all clear, Donya, your nose, I could do wonders."
Oh, I thought you meant with your 1-year-old son.
No,
you wanted to do a nose
I thought with your son.
I was going to say somebody should inform those change.
And my mom was with me at this point. And then my mom, she's a very soft-spoken lady. And then she was like, "Oh, doctor, don't say that. It will upset her." Yeah, it should. Because she could do so much with her nose. She has the bones and I don't know this doctor. It's not a family friend, right? But it's so, our culture, we're so open about fixing your outside.
I remember I watched documentary about Iran as well, that it's common after having plastic surgery for women not to remove the plastic, bandage, even after they've healed, for a while, because they like to brag about that they've done a rhinoplasty.
Yeah. You think there's anything to just put a bandage on and you don't even get it done?
It's like a makeup,
Yeah. So, but I was going with the fact that we're great at the outside, but when it comes to the internal matters, we don't talk about it.
Or do anything about it.
Don't do anything because it's the image, right? We want to keep that image of being, good unit of family. Our kids are right. The husband and wife. That image is so important.
So in other words, you want everything to look good, especially the body, but also the entire family image.
Everything.
And emotions are a lot messier and harder to fix than noses. Yeah.
100%.
What do you think the common trauma, I would say, amongst this culture?
The common trauma, I mean, that's a difficult one because it's quite a lot. Being heard as a young person is quite difficult. It's extremely difficult because it's a culture where parents know best. It is reinforced with also religious dynamics, irrespective of what religion you're from, this idea that after God, it's your parents. So that's reinforced quite a lot. So even if you are right, even if what you're feeling is right, even if someone else says you're right, parents have the final say, and that's very difficult for young people, especially young Iranians. It's very difficult for them. Yeah.
Do you see that changing at all over I mean, things have changed so fast in so much of the world, in terms of family dynamics and, the authority that kids have in the West.
Yeah.
Do you see that changing here or in Iranian culture, I guess we're talking about?
I do not see it necessarily changing. I think young Iranians are extremely brave. They've always been brave. I do think the societal reinforcement is a lot stronger.
Societal reinforcement of the existing
of the dynamics,
the existing traditions.
Yeah, the
That's still
existing
very
dynamics
strong.
are very strong because you still have most of the parents paying for their kids. So you don't want to get outcasted completely either, because there's a lot of beautiful things about, let's say, having such a culture where it's so. You always have a family member to call, but celebrations are always together. So if you decide to be the one that decides to break this dynamic, you're breaking all of that. And most young people, if you have one or two things not going great for you, you're fine keeping it quiet because there's a lot of things going right for you. Whereas in my case, nothing was going right. So I was like, okay, since nothing is going right, let me at least talk about it. Let me highlight things that are really not that unique about the society or the culture. And I don't know if I could say this like very quickly. I had a very small reading when the book just came out. The day it came out, I invited 25 people as a little form of celebration. And I knew 24 of them. One person I did not know. One of my friends really wanted to bring along their friend, and he was an avid reader, an older gentleman, not Iranian, but from the Middle East. And he didn't know me, I didn't know him. The whole talk was done. There was a lot of tears because people could resonate with what I was talking about. They would see that in themselves or their moms, which is what I keep hearing. And then when it was done and people were talking and mingling, he comes up to me and goes like, so how do I get in contact with you once I've done reading the book? I was like, at the end of the page, I have my Instagram handle. He's like, well, I've not read it, but just hearing you talk for the past half an hour, you're too Western.
Okay.
But I didn't say anything. I was just, it was a moderated conversation about my story. Right? And he hadn't read the book. And I was like, okay, yeah. He's like, yeah, you sound like, in the Canada, US, in Scandinavia, where you have social services coming for the kids every time something happens. You're not giving credit to parents. He didn't even read the book. And I was like,
So he's trying to reinforce the culture itself. So yes, it's you who am I writing about.
It's like, thank you for
validating my point.
I'm like, exactly, you didn't even read my book. If he would have said that after he read my book, by all means, let's have a discussion.
So there's an entrenched idea that, as you said, the parents are always right.
Yeah.
And anyone who goes against that for whatever reason is too Western or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just rocking the boat in a way they shouldn't. So, when your work was introduced to me, when your book was introduced to me, I was told that one thing you wanted to achieve with the book was I want to get the exact quote, that, you're encouraging young Iranians to tell their own stories.
Yes.
And would you say that in terms of telling their own stories, like it's that sort of generational conflict that's key to so many of these stories?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, any sort of storytelling. So people talk quite a lot about Iranians for different reasons. I started being more vocal about it on my LinkedIn because I do consulting jobs because of my social science background, where they try to understand. So very briefly, like the latest companies that I'm working with are in blockchain, intelligence, crypto. I know, not related to this, but they're trying to understand how there are more crypto users in Iran than the US. Okay, so there's this comparison because of the data that's coming out. And I very politely told them, in your company, who's doing the research on Iran? oh, well, we have someone who speaks Farsi. I was like, okay, but are they Iranian? No. I was like, so how are you going to understand the cultural dynamics of a society and what they're going to do just by speaking the language? So there's a lot of conversations about Iranians or about Iran, but we're not in those conversations.
This justifies what I was literally just thinking about, that yes, there's lots of talks about Iran, whether politically, culturally,
Yes.
religiously, historically, all this,
Yeah.
everything. But yet we are still unable to understand properly, while it's just 1 hour away by flight, right? We are able to understand other cultures who are way further in terms of even cultural-wise or regionally. But still, we are unable to understand Iran fully. Now, I understand why. It's because these stories are never coming from Iranians themselves.
Yes.
What would Iranians themselves talk about?
We would have a reasoning of why, for example, we have so much nose jobs. As
I was expecting more, Donya.
sorry.
Every chapter eventually comes around a nose job.
The nose
by
job
the
is
way.
very important. No, but I mean, it would justify even bigger things that are happening. Because after my social science, I realized after that degree that quite a lot is political. So I did an international relations degree to understand the politics behind our societies. And even when I teach and when I would teach politics, I was like, guys, always go back to your parents. The dynamics of your parents and your siblings explains what happens in a bigger context. So even when people are trying to figure out what's happening within countries right now, it's like take an average family from that country and see the dynamics. Who calls the shots? Whose word, comes out at the end? So a lot of Iranians could very openly talk about what is happening at every level quite easily because we have them within the households, Trying very hard not to
It's a
say
power
anything.
game.
Yeah, it's all because it's difficult not to get political, and I won't get political, I promise. But it is. It's all about like.
But what you're saying is the microcosm is the macrocosm, and vice
100%.
versa. You can tell the politics from the family.
Yeah.
Probably, and like you said, it's probably true everywhere on the planet.
Yeah.
When you look closely enough.
Yeah, that's why when we see things happening, it's usually led by the youth movement. I can't remember the name of the Aladdin song, the one that was Voices. I think it was not in the classic cartoon. It was in the live action, the recent one.
Will Smith?
Yes, the one with Will
that one I
Smith.
didn't
Yeah,
say.
the song we're coming from
I yield the floor.
a far place.
Yeah,
where
she
you're-
kept highlighting about her voice, and
you mean
the
for
princess,
Jasmine?
the Jasmine. She kept talking about her voice, how it's not heard. It's like, okay, she looks great, she wears the best things, she has this access to this palace, but it doesn't matter because her voice is not heard. So that is a narrative, especially with Iranian women. Like their voice is just diluted.
And that is a refrain that they speak about too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
But when I see such scenes in films, or when they keep saying my voice, I have a voice, it's powerful, all these kind of things.
You're not buying it.
No. No. Not because of the circumstances, because of the way it's being presented, and I don't see it being practical. Like, yes, you say, I'm a woman, I'm strong, I'm independent. Okay, understood. Especially when it comes to cultures that there isn't that much equality, but to which extent you have power, and also how to integrate that. So to become a strong, independent woman doesn't start by saying, hey, I have a voice,
Yeah.
and I'm going to challenge everyone. What do you think the practical aspects of that? Where does it start from? How do you encourage people, especially, for example, young students, whether they're females or like even young males, because they have their own different
100%,
experiences.
yes.
But it's so easy to say, yes, I'm powerful, and you have your own voice. But where do you start from?
Yeah, most of the time you don't have a voice. That's why the voice is so important, is because it doesn't count. Education. I always tell young people, if you can, get educated. I was 18, I got married. 3 months after I gave birth to my son, I started my degree. And everyone's like, why are you doing your degree? I was like, well, I still need to be educated, right? So education is the key to actually get that voice in practicality.
That's what we don't see in films.
Yeah.
You know, like it's easy to see a woman dancing in a palace with a tiger saying, I have a voice. But why
But what do
they
you
don't
do with that
mention,
voice?
yeah.
Education teaches you what to do with that voice.
Education is extremely, I mean, for me, I was able to gain my independence from what I was experiencing. I wouldn't say necessarily comfortably, but I was still able to do it because I had a master's degree. I could go get a work. Like I could get a high paying job. Even if that meant, cutting out the lifestyle that, let's say, I was used to for a few years, I was able to do that because I had a degree, because I could get hired quite easily. And if this work didn't work out, I could go to another one. So education was that tool for me. So educating yourself in whatever field it is, but getting, a skill is extremely important to get, so that you can make more choices, right? It's not about, I'll be a strong, independent woman. I don't need no man. No, I love my husband. I need a man. I have 2 sons, right? So the dynamic of like being a strong, independent woman is not the opposite of hating on men. That's not at all the thing. But it's having that tool that you don't rely on anyone else.
That qualify you, or you'll be able to make a choice. You say it, that I have choices.
Exactly.
This is where strength or power is coming from. When you're
100%.
able to follow your choices, you're not just blindly following what's being said or how are you led.
Because one thing that's quite unfortunate is women who do not get any form of skill. So not necessarily a degree of some sort, but it's like, tailoring, any form of skill that you can get an income of. They're aware of the situation they're living in. They're aware that they might want to get out of it because they've had enough, but they can't because they cannot survive on their own financially. Because let's be honest, you still need money to, have the house, the food, the shelter, all of that. So getting yourself independent, knowing that you have that backup, is the ultimate power. And then move on with your life.
And the only way it can be done is with education.
Really,
yeah. Because, again, as you said, you have a voice. Everybody's got a voice.
Exactly.
If you don't know what to do with it, it's useless.
You need a skill. You need to
And to show just what a consummate professional I am, to bring in AI, because our guest last week, we were talking about AI, like everybody on the planet, and we were saying the same thing, that AI is a tool, but if you don't have the knowledge and the skills to use it, it's not a useful tool. I was just going to say, your book. This is something that AI cannot produce.
You know why? It just when we were talking about voice, AI has the tool, but it doesn't have a voice.
Yes, exactly.
We got it.
Well
Yeah,
done.
we got it.
I knew somebody would nail it exactly.
That's the quote of this episode.
Yes.
Put that on a T-shirt. And so, yes, that's it. And, the AI will be so sophisticated. There's a reason that the AI movies are all soulless Hollywood blockbuster facsimiles, because those are things made by tools. There's no soul in it. There's no emotion. There's no education in it, really, except a technical education.
Yes.
And the AI software could produce a facsimile of the Quiet Revolution, but it wouldn't have your experiences. It wouldn't have your soul. It just wouldn't be that book. And anyone reading it would know that too.
Yeah, 100%. And the complexity of like the emotions that you go through, up and down, changing your mind about. I question myself so much whether maybe I'm using my voice a bit too much, or am I being westernized? Is this not Iranian? Am I trying to be someone else? So I think that also does not necessarily come through with AI.
Which part of your story you thought that it might be too much, and you questioned yourself if you should actually share or not?
The last chapter. What I finally do.
Okay.
What the doctor, I'm not saying he told me to do it, but when he said remove it, I thought I was going too far, and then I was like, okay, the publishers are going to tell me I've gone too far. Someone's going to tell me I've gone too far. The fact that no one told me I went too far, I was like, okay, this is good.
Again, that voice that's irreplaceable, the trained and educated voice.
Yeah.
You were going to say that. I just want to say, because we are getting low on time, I know most people are listening and not watching. I don't know why they give away eye candy like this, but it's there on YouTube if you want it. But for those who are watching, can you hold up the book? I guess so, round about there somewhere. Yeah, there it is. The Quiet Revolution.
My sister designed this.
Beautiful.
I would just like to give credit to my 20-year-old sister.
It's got a very Audrey Hepburn thing going on.
Is
it's
it?
simple, stylish, the pink and the black. I don't know why it makes me think
We'll
Audrey
add the
Hepburn.
details as well with the show, whether on podcast, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Well, yeah. Pink is my favorite color, and that was my previous life. And just painting.
So black,
says it
previous
all right
life, and
there.
pink is the current one. Why are you calling it the Quiet Revolution? Because it's such a contradicting name.
Because I did a lot of this on my own without telling anyone my decisions as I was going through what I was going through. It was very public what was happening to me. By public, I mean my family, friends could see what I'm going through. But the decisions that I took were extremely quiet, and I knew perhaps the chaos it might cause. So that's the revolutionary part of it, but it was quiet because it was between myself and...
Not even your husband or your kids are aware of any of it?
No, I told my son for his 18th birthday, because it's this year, I was like, I'll give you this book. And then he'll be surprised, because I don't think he's close, because this is what my son sees, the pink part. You know, he sees the mom who loves Mary Poppins and, you know, still wears pink and has a lot of like fun and like with my poodle and, you know, life is quite fun. I mean, he's aware because his parents are divorced, so he knows it wasn't all rosy, but he's not aware, and that for me is success.
Yes, that's true.
That for me is
beautiful.
Thank you.
Before we end the show, because you have lots of stories, you are also exposed to so many stories from your students and others and stuff. Anything you want to share in general or specific?
That's a broad order.
Sorry, I can be specific.
Once upon a time.
That's so much. That's so much. Maybe a topic that a couple of people who have read the book have told me, it was not the let's say the abuse part or the revolutionary part of it. I do discuss loss quite a lot. A part of it is losing my soulmate, is what I would just say, and grief. Dealing with grief was one that stands out. I mean, that was difficult for me, but people, that's a chapter I cannot read. Like, a lot of things have happened, but
grief was the hardest.
Grief was the hardest for me. So, and that's something people have been resonating with as well. So it's not just about finding your voice, but it's like what happens when you lose someone.
And now I understand what you're saying, a story about reactions to the book. That's what I missed in the question.
Yeah, correct.
Good. See, I'm a little slow on the uptake. I have to run to catch up. Donya, thank you so much for being on the book. Donya Saberi, the book is The Quiet Revolution. Thank you, Deema Maghalseh.
Thank you, David Tully. Thank you, Dunya.
And this has been Crossroads of Era Business FM. Find us on all the usual, if we're now cut off already, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, blah, blah, blah.
Thank you.
Thanks.